Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Naranam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayadmudirahe Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevya Bhagavate Uttama Sloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Let me share text. Chapter is 14, text number is 13. The chapter is titled The Three Modes of Material Nature. Yeah. Somehow Shimeshwar Prabhu is selecting right words for me. Aprakasho pravritti cha pramado moha eva cha tamasi etani jayante vivriddhe kurunandana. Aprakasho pravritti cha pramado moha eva cha tamasi etani jayante vivriddhe kurunandana. Aprakasho pravritti cha pramado moha eva cha tamasi etani jayante vivriddhe kurunandana. Anybody else would like to chant?
Aprakasho pravrittischa pramado moha eva cha tasmyetani jayante vivriddhe kurunandana.
Aprakasho pravritischa pramado moha eva cha tamassetani jayante vivriddhe kurunandana.
Aprakasho pravritischa pramado moha eva cha tamasya itani jayante vivriddhe kuru nandana.
Prakasho pravrittischa pramado moha eva cha tamasyetani jayante vivriddhe kurunandana.
Okay. Synonyms. Aprakashaha, darkness. Apravritti, inactivity. Cha, and. Pramadaha, madness. Moha, illusion. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Tamasi, the mode of ignorance. Etani, these. Jayante, are manifested. Vivriddhe, when developed. Kuru Nandana, O son of Kuru. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. So Prabhupada ki jai. When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested. Please repeat. When there is an increase
In
the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru,
O son of Kuru,
darkness, inertia, madness, and illusions
and delusion
are manifested. But when there is no illumination, knowledge is absent. One in the mode of ignorance does not work by a regulative principle. He wants to act whimsically for no purpose. Even though he has the capacity to work, he makes no endeavor. This is called illusion. Although consciousness is going on, life is inactive. These are the symptoms of one in a mode of ignorance. These are the symptoms of one in the mode of ignorance. Okay, the words again. Aprakasho pravritti cha pramado moha eva cha tamasi etani jayante vivridde kuru nandanaha. When there is an increase in the mode of ignorance, O son of Kuru, darkness, inertia, madness, and illusion are manifested. Om Jnanatimandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurmitan Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Sri Chaitanya Manabhistam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swam Rupaha Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Sijuta Palakamanam Shri Guru Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakha Vitamsya. He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhano Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhayo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yeah. So, in this section of Bhagavad Gita, this entire chapter is about the three modes of material nature, which binds a living entity, right? Which binds a living entity. The soul is Sat, Chid, Ananda. Soul is eternal, full of knowledge, full of bliss. But when in the conditioned state, means when it comes under the influence of these three modes of material nature, it identifies itself with the body, right? And it tries to enjoy based on these three modes of material nature. These three modes of material nature being goodness, passion, and ignorance. We saw in the first section of the chapter about how these three modes work, right? How these three modes binds the soul to the body, what are its characteristics and manifestations, right? And then later on in this chapter, we'll see what is the destination at death when one is in one of these three modes of material nature predominating, and results of action. Right. So we will see that yeah. In Goodness, the binding force, is it has a sense of happiness, satisfaction, knowledge, superiority. In passion, it is attached to the fruitive activities and it's bound by the ropes of desire for hankering, and it always hankers for those fulfillment of those desires. And as a result, it goes on endeavoring to work more and more and more. Right? In ignorance, like in these particular words, we see the characteristics that madness, indolence means laziness and sleep. Right. Now, how does one know that uh, out of these three modes of material nature, which mode is predominant in his activities? And that's where this section comes of how one can know which mode is predominant in that particular living entity. And that is explained in this particular section from 10th verse to 13th verse, recognizing a mode supremacy, where in the mode of goodness, all gates are illuminated by knowledge, right? Perception of the senses is also based on knowledge. It's normally, in mode of goodness, is clean inside and out. While in passion, he goes on working, right? In the previous words, let's see the words. When there's an increase in the mode of passion, the symptoms of great attachment, fruitive activity, intense endeavor, and uncontrollable desire and anchoring develop. Uncontrollable desire and anchoring for fulfilling those lust desires develop. And it has great attachment to perform the fruitive activity. So it's very passionate to perform that activity. And as a result, he continuously endeavors day and night to fulfill those desires. While the characteristics in mode of ignorance, right, if one needs to find out which is dominant, the characteristics in the mode of ignorance is explained in these words as darkness is not illuminated by any knowledge. Inertia means inactivity. Though he can perform a lot of activities, he does not feel like performing the activity. Right? He does not work by any regulatory principles. He wants to act whimsically. Right? He wants to act whimsically for no purpose. So, though he has a capacity to work, he makes no endeavor. Then madness, right, and illusion are manifested. Right. These are his characteristics. When mode of ignorance is predominant, when mode of passion is predominant, he has intense attachment to fruitive activity. When mode of goodness is predominant, all his senses are governed by knowledge. Right? He's normally clean inside and out. Right? That's how this particular section, when he talks about recognizing the mode supremacy, That's how it is explained. His in mode of goodness is free from sinful reactions. In mode of passion, since he performs the fruitive activities, he is bound by the results of the fruitive activities. In mode of ignorance, we saw that is in illusion. He's not at all illuminated by knowledge. He's completely in darkness, as if he's mad, like madness and inertia of not performing any activity. That's what this verse entails. Are there any questions or discussions on this subject matter? Because in the next section, further Lord will mention about when one of the mode is predominant and a person dies, what kind of destination he will achieve. Right, like summary of that. If goodness is predominant, you can urdhvam gacchati, you can ascend to higher planetary system. Still in the material world, because it's still bound by the piety which he has performed to enjoy the results of that piety. And mode of passion normally would come back the human form or some other form. Mode of ignorance, definitely he'll go downwards. In lower species of life, even in lower planets. Okay. Any discussions, questions?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisance.
Please accept mine.
Thanks, Prabhu. Prabhu, there's this pastime of Srila Prabhupada.
Yeah.
I'm not sure which temple, but I think it was Vrindavan temple.
Mm-hmm.
So there was some kirtan going on.
Okay.
But Prabhupada told his disciple, shut the windows. So the disciple asked Prabhupada that, Prabhupada is singing Mahamantra. So he said, yes, he's singing Mahamantra, but all I can hear is money, 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 money. And he's a professional singer.
Yeah.
And we can see even in today's time, there are professional singers who sing bhajan and kirtan, which in itself is an act of devotional service. But the motive is money. Or even there are the professional Bhagavatam reciters.
Mm-hmm.
So for the person who is doing devotional act as a profession, and for a person who's listening to such katha or kirtan, are they both in mode of ignorance, or what mode is that in?
Good question. So he's using devotional service, the tool of devotional service like kirtan or Bhagavatam, for his own enjoyment, per se. So he's performing that activity as a fruitive activity, right? So what mode does it fall into? Passion. Right. So he falls into, because his mode of passion is predominant. He is performing a devotional activity also for fruitive purposes, fruitive activity, not as unalloyed devotional service. Fruitive activity. Oh, I know, such a wonderful Shingar, but I will do that Shingar only if I get paid XYZ dollars. Or I'm and perform wonderful kirtan but I need XYZ dollars. So we see past time where Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj would push one of his disciples whom he would know that he does not sing that melodiously, but he will sing by his heart. He will push him forward for leading the kirtan. Right. Not necessarily the person who sings very melodiously, but does not have much devotion in it. And there is this thing about there's a verse, Vaishnava Mukadgira, Vaishnava. So basically, hearing words from an Vaishnava, right, is like milk touched by a serpent. Milk is pure in nature, but when it is touched by a serpent, what is added into the milk? Poison. Similarly, a professional reciter of Bhagavatam or a professional Kirtaniya is not going to be able to transform people in general. There are many famous singers who have sung even and has made cassettes of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, right? But they have sung it professionally, not coming from their heart. Coming from their heart means, okay, I want to sing for the pleasure of the deities. It's not bound by, I want to sing, but I need XYZ money. No condition. I want to sing for the pleasure of the deities. Right. Similarly, I do very nice Bhagavad Katha. You invite me, right? And I will transform everybody's life. And my fees are XYZ dollars. Right. That's why Srila Prabhupada would give an example that when his Guru Maharaj gave a lecture on the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam in Dhaka, Bangladesh, he spoke on the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam for 30 days. Just on the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right. But the professional reciters would directly jump into the inner pastimes of the Supreme Lord without proper qualification, and directly try to, they are good orators, so they'll try to play with the sentiments of the listeners. Right. They try to play with the sentiments of the listeners. But that would not transform a person's life. Right. So the incident which you mentioned, yes, but I believe that happened in Mayapur, where the singing was going on, and Prabhupada, they knew all the wonderful beats and everything of the Mridanga. Prabhupada said, they're just talking about, they're not really singing Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Is that all right, Amitabh?
Yeah, Prabhu. And if I can do a follow-up if no one else has a question.
You go ahead. Go ahead.
Prabhu, so it is like the instruction is we should not listen from a non-devotee.
Yeah.
I think I read today somewhere that Prabhupada has given the instruction that when the movement was new to his sannyasis, go out and preach.
Yeah.
And I have heard it from my guru, who has heard it from his guru, like the parampara. So you also go out and preach, because that time they were all new.
Yeah.
And there mustn't have been that much of knowledge, or even what you say, the purity.
Yeah.
of surrender or whatever is there. So still there's anartha, but Prabhupada said, still you go out and preach and give the word because you've heard it from a pure devotee and you're repeating what you're saying. Then it is, that effect will be there. What you said, transformation. That effect will be there. And I think he gave the example of, I forget what the example was, some example. Anyway, so Prabhu, like when we, and at the same time, Prabhupada said, avoid like lips touched by milk, milk touched by serpent. These professionals. So when let's say, for example, there's a professional singer and the kirtan is going on. Should you participate in it? Or if you're already there, should you walk out of it? And I know some senior devotees, Prabhupada disciples, they walked out of kirtan, but then they have that level of purity. But for a sadhaka like us, like me, that walking out, then would it be my ego which is making me go out, or am I trying to protect my bhakti by not listening to that kirtan? What's the proper behavior in such a situation if we find ourselves?
So when we find ourselves in a situation, as far as professional kirtaniyas are concerned, we would know that, right? They're not necessarily initiated in a movement. They would be from outside, and for some specific purpose, like you are coordinating years back Anup Jalota concert. It was for a purpose, like fundraising or something, not that we wanted to transform people's lives also. Right. So similarly, there are names where they come, they may charge hefty fees, like what we were paying the singer which we got years back. They're not singing for devotion. They're singing for, I can come, sing. I have that power to enchant through that singing. Then people in general, do not necessarily look for devotion. Right? Devotees would be, you won't see a pure devotee walk into such kind of concerts or something, unless he sees that he has some preaching mission. He's not going to walk into that, right? So to answer your question, what do we do if, first of all, if it is a paid concert, automatically you won't buy the tickets to go there, unless it is for a benefit of something which a cause which is close to your heart. Right. Otherwise, you take that more as a cultural thing, not really a devotional thing. You're not going to hear, like Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, right? We see so many reciters, especially when we go to India. There are so many reciters here and there and there and there at different places. They would have had a tent and they would start reciting. And people would have called them, paying some money, this, that, right? But hearing Bhagavatam from a devotee would help us. Just a professional reciter would not help us. Right? Just like we hear Prabhupada's Kirtan. Now, Srila Prabhupada's Kirtan is filled with devotion. It may not be the most melodious, but it's filled with devotion. And we like to hear that. It will penetrate our heart. That Kirtan will penetrate our heart. I see Guru Maharaj's mother was in the hospital last year. And in the hospital, this chanting box was going on. No one's chanting a Prabhupada's Kirtan. So that while leaving her body, she can hear that Kirtan. And the person heading the hospice care in Princeton Hospital got so attracted by it that now she's making a point to give that chanting box to various of her patients. And through Govindanandani Mataji, just recently, a couple of weeks back, was another order, and Mataji was mentioning that how it has affected her, it has transformed her, that she's getting more of our chanting boxes to give to different patients. So that while leaving the body, at least they can hear the holy name. Yeah. Now, I'm sure there are other bhajan cassettes and this and that outside available. She could have thought about that also, but this kind of transformed her. Right? Yeah. And also we should be careful to at certain platform we'll be able to judge better. At certain platform we may not be able to judge properly. So we should be careful on the judgment platform also of okay, this person is not from ISKCON, he's chanting from some other sampradaya. But from other sampradaya also, his kirtan could be melodious. We won't necessarily invite them into ISKCON temple. But if we land up going into some other temple also and they're singing, we cannot, some appreciation will be there. Is that all right, Amrita?
Yes, Prabhu. Thanks.
Okay, okay. Any other discussion? Yeah, so on that point, we should always strive whenever we are doing kirtan. That first of all, we are not doing kirtan. We are the mood of doing kirtan should be just for glorifying the Supreme Lord. Not that, no, my voice is very melodious. I hope so. I get a chance to sing this, that. And no, because then that ego filters in, false ego filters in. As devotees also, we should be careful about it. That take a more remote mode of that. Okay, it's normally when somebody's senior is there in the temple, so we offer them, okay, you do kirtan or something. Like some visiting devotees are there, We ask them to do kirtan. And no, we be careful that whenever we sing, we just sing for the pleasure of the Lord, not to um, unnecessarily fan our false ego. As such, we are afflicted by our false ego for many, many life cycles. So how we can control that? Because kirtan is one thing which even as devotees, many times people get attracted to devotees doing wonderful kirtan, and if that devotee is not too careful, it will lead to sense gratification.
No, Prabhu, I subscribe to Jayadvaita Maharaj's newsletters and he writes extensively on Kirtan. And whatever standards Prabhupada has set down, and what we see in many of our ISKCON, almost all our ISKCON temples today, there's a huge difference. It's nothing like what Prabhupada had set down for Kirtan. So, you know, I don't know if we should have some kind of a training or education series that where the Kirtan can become an act of devotion and not sense gratification for the singer or the listener. So, you know, Maharaj, I think every month or something, he keeps writing. Like today, one newsletter came. So it's a series of, specifically on Kirtan Prabhu. So that would be very beneficial, I think. Kirtan should be sung and listened to.
Somehow,
as YouTube seminars.
GBCA somehow approached Maharaj again to write a book on Kirtan reform. And that's what he's doing extensive research to collect different views and different things which many may have heard from Prabhupada. And based on that, he's compiling all this so that the real kirtan does not get lost. For example, we do Narsingarti. And Narsingarti, we just end with Jai Narsinga, and Jai Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Prahlad Maharaj. The extension of that is Jai Prabhupada, Jai Prabhupada. Then Jai Gurudev, and then Jai Gaur Nitai, Jai Gaur. So means haphazardly, we just do, we add all this Jai out of line, out of sync. And to that extent, it becomes a norm where if somebody does not chant, though it's a wrong thing to do that, to add those to begin with, but to then promote that wrong when you are not chanting that, somebody will say, oh, Prabhuji, please chant this. I remember once I was humbly requested to lead Kirtan, Mangala Arti Kirtan at New Vrindavan. And I just chanted and ended the Kirtan with Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And devotees behind me were pushing me, oh, this chant Jai Radha Vrindavan Chandra Jai, this Jai that. And no, I just ended it with Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And then I remember later on Malti Mataji came to compliment that you stuck to how Prabhupada would have ended it. But that I was able to do because I heard from my Guru Maharaj. Unnecessarily not put just Jai this, Jai that, Jai that, Jai that. A movement is a Hare Krishna movement. Maximum kirtan in our Aarti should be of Hare Krishna Mahamantra. And it should be done in the mood of complete devotion and not Sahajaism. Where others will completely get embroiled and, oh, Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe. And we are not even there. You know. We must quote my Guru Maharaj will mention, we should make sure that our pants are on before we just get into the mood of chanting Jai Radhe, Jai Radhe. I remember there was Purushottam Mass and I went in the temple, the devotees were requesting that every day of that Purushottam Mass, if in the evening we can introduce one kirtan. And there's a nice kirtan sung by our acharyas, Radha Krishna Pranamura, Jugala Kishore. And every day, I allowed, and they were singing, including me. Myself, I was also singing. I liked that. My Guru Maharaj heard that, Radha Krishna Pranamura, and then said, no, why? It's quite advanced moments. It should be sung more in an advanced crowd of devotees, not at regular temple level. Instead, sing Jai Radha, Jai Krishna, Jai Vrindavan. That's better. So I remember recently, when was this? Some opportune time between when after the Snan Yatra or something, almost like every evening, Julan Yatra time. Friends Radhika Mataji was asking, in the evening, in the kirtan, we can sing these. And I said, no, just sing. Jai Radha, Jai Krishna, Jai Vrindavan, that would be better. So there is a lot of intricacies in the kirtan area. And we should be careful of chewing what we are capable of chewing. Right. When we are not there at the advanced platform, we should be careful. Is that all right, Amitabh?
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have time, Prabhu, for one question?
Yeah, go ahead, Mother.
So I just had a question which is not related to this topic, but I was reading something and I was a little unsure of what that meant. So it was Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 12th verse, 33rd verse. So over there it is said that in the purport it was said that the best way to compensate for one's sinful act is to give up one's body at once. So I was a little unsure of what that meant, because as far as we have learned, we should never be doing that, right?
Yeah, that itself is a sinful activity. Yeah. So, especially about the sinful activity where somebody in a very renounced order becomes attracted to opposite gender. And he's in a renounced order. Like we have this pastime in Mahaprabhu's Chaitanya Lila about Chota Haridas. The renounced order, he gets attracted. Not really, he's just going door to door, and in that door to door, some not like completely getting attracted and falling down, but and Mahaprabhu had stopped association with Chota Haridas. And Chota Haridas had given up his life. And then because as I mentioned, one who gives up his life prematurely, he comes in his subtle body. In subtle body, he was singing for Mahaprabhu and performing service. So, when Srila Prabhupada was delaying this pastime, and like the words which you mentioned, I was mentioned about what one should do. That's for the Shastra. And then, taking it to the heart, one of his disciples in the renounced order of life, who was getting attracted, he gave up his life. So, Srila Prabhupada was quite shaken with that event. And he had kind of mentioned that as such, his disciples have given up their life in Krishna consciousness. Right. So they don't need to give up life in a form of ending their life. Right. Instead, life can be given up in many ways. We have this pastime of Arjuna and Yudhishthira, that Arjuna had taken a vow that whoever tells him to give up his Gandiva, he will kill that person. And one time, Yudhishthira Maharaj was injured in the battlefield, and he went to his camp, and Arjuna followed to find out the well-being of his elder brother. And Yudhishthira Maharaj was so upset that how come you can leave the battlefield and come to see me like this? And him, and that he even insulted. If you run away like this as a coward to just see me, you should give up your Gandiva. He had taken a vow that whoever would tell him to give up the Gandiva, he will kill that person. So on one side was his vow, he was to kill his elder brother, whom he is so affectionate. And Lord Krishna mentions one way of killing is also speaking some harsh words is also. So he started now and then speaking harshly to Yudhishthira Maharaj. You are calling me a coward. You did this. A, B, C, D. Because of you, we lost the gambling. And so many things. He just started speaking harshly. So those sensitive verses has to be heard in right context, so that when somebody does not make a premature decision. Oh, see, I'm going through some difficulty. Let me give up my life now. Right?
Right. No, it makes sense in what you said, because only if it's for the renounced order, because it was in context to Lord Brahma.
Yeah.
So it all ties in now. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mataji. Okay. It's 8 o'clock. We'll take off. Tomorrow is a busy day. Kalpatarubhyascha Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Vaishnavinda ki jai. Santra Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Gaur Premanande.
Hari Hari
Hari
Bol.
Hare
Thank you, Madhupati Prabhu.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Hare Krishna, everybody.